what the bacteria actually thrive upon, and bacteria enjoy insoluble fiber inside our gut. So when you compare an ambli made with rice, where the fiber is at a maximum of 0.2% in rice, there's not going to be that much insoluble fiber for the bacteria to grow well. Exercise is something which we are not giving enough value to. Regularly exercising helps to reduce obesity. Obesity and hormone imbalance are interrelated.
We have talked about how do we store water in copper vessels, the pH of the water, and so why is it important to store our drinking water in copper vessels? Dr. Kadravalli says there's one thing that you always admire the most, is it his diet or lifestyle. So what kind of like the one thing that you would admire most? Millets. So that's why you don't get that hungriness, like it kind of sustains of the glucose.
Yes.
You don't have the up and low sugar, so lowers the insulin resistance as well. So it can be an anti-inflammatory food in terms of helping them with arthritis, and also how the calcium can promote their bone health. But how these microplastics can when we stop it, how that can help with the hair. The whole can provide them in kind of like, okay, once you consume the millet, what are all the changes that you can slowly see in kind of women's health? So hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is Dr. Sankari Kasi, and I am a family medicine physician from California. So lovely to have Dr. Sarala here, and she is the daughter of Dr. Kadravalli sir. Namaste. Thank you so much for coming and doing the podcast with me.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
I want to give you a free introduction to all the viewers. So Dr. Sarala is also a homeopathic doctor, and she has been working relentlessly in the revival of the millets, and she also has the Millet Magic, which is a YouTube channel which she show us how to not just consuming the millets, it's about like how you cook the millets in a way that is helpful to optimize our health. And she has also done a lot of educational workshops, and I've seen her how she educate the farmers and educate the public, and shares the knowledge even though in between her busy schedule and her family. I always see her, even when one video comes up, it's always so informational, educational. And I love the impact that you give us, right? And then even many of us, we watch, and then we have a few questions that I wanted to ask you. So thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Go ahead.
So the first question is, you talk about the ambali, and I have questions about, we also ferment rice, the palaya rice or kanji, and then we also ferment ambali. So the question we have is, we are doing it in US, as Sar has mentioned. I used to do cooker, but nowadays I don't even touch cooker after talking with Dr. Kadravalli sir. So I do the mud pot and I ferment it. But is that the same good bacteria, or the yeast that grows in US is similar to Bengaluru or other people who are in Australia, different parts of the world? Is that the same type of bacteria, or how is this fermentation is different from other food?
Yeah, so basically, the beauty of ambli is that there are so many dynamic bacteria in it. And in one word, to answer your question, no, it will not be the same if you make ambli in America or India or Australia. Even within your own place. Now, let's say in California, you're making ambli. Based on the season, it's going to again change, and again, even within the same pot of ambli, at every given point of time, the variety of bacteria is going to be different. So after 2 hours, you'll have a certain set of bacteria dominating. After 4 hours, you'll have another set of bacteria dominating. So that's the whole beauty of ambli, that it's not only 1 or 2 or 3 strains of bacteria which you would be getting if you're consuming even a capsule or any probiotic medicated drink. So all these will give you only a few strains of bacteria, but ambli is so dynamic that it's ever changing. The microbiome is ever changing. It depends on the place, it depends on the temperature, it depends on the duration, and it even depends on which millet you have used. So each millet comes with its own set of microbes, and each time you're making it, it's going to be different. So the health lies in diversity. So that's the key to health. So when you have a more diverse range of gut bacteria, and not just bacteria, it includes, of course, other microbes as well, like you mentioned, yeast. So fungi, bacteria, all these put together, the more diverse you have, the better it is for your health. So to answer your question, no, it's not the same, but that's what makes it even more special, I guess.
That's my special. So, is there a difference between the ambali made with rice versus the one in millet?
Yes. So there is something called as a prebiotic condition. So the prebiotic condition we are looking for is what the bacteria actually thrive upon, and bacteria enjoy insoluble fiber inside our gut. So when you compare an ambli made with rice, where the fiber is at a maximum of 0.2% in rice, there's not going to be that much insoluble fiber for the bacteria to grow well. So the fermentation, the good bacteria growing is going to be much, much more in our millets, especially the positive millets where we have around 8 to 12.5% of fiber. So you're providing the bacteria with what they like, they're going to thrive and grow well. So that's the difference between an ambali made from the rice and the millet.
Okay, well said. So thank you so much for that. It was a good explanation because we all had that, and this is not written in books or anything. Like, I think you have experienced so much. It's kind of like the knowledge sharing is, so thank you so much. Okay, so the next question I have is the hair loss in women, and I've seen one of your educational talk about the microplastics. Usually when patients come to us, we do the thyroid, iron and vitamin D, vitamin B12, and check for the macronutrients. But everything would be normal, but still patients would say that, oh, Dr. Kasi, I've been losing so much of hair. And one video that sparked my attention was your video about how these microplastics can, when we stop it, how that can help with the hair.
Correct.
Can you explain
Correct.
that?
So, as we all know, plastic is a water repelling substance. So, when we want to go out and we have a possibility of rain, we keep our important items in a plastic car or a plastic bag. So, that itself is proof that it's going to keep the water away. But in our gut, many of the channels where we absorb nutrients are through the water channels. The water soluble vitamins, the water soluble minerals, we are going to have them absorbed through the water channels into our system. So from the intestine to the blood. However, when we have been consuming all food substances, especially the ones which are hot, which are fluid, liquids, and which are cooked food substances which are in contact with plastic, unknowingly we have been consuming particles of plastic into our body, and these form a nice layer inside the gut. So we have these finger-like projections in the intestine which are meant to increase the surface area for absorption, but instead we have a good coating of plastic there. And as I just mentioned, it's water repelling. So because of this layer, we are actually losing a lot of capacity to absorb the nutrients from our food. First thing, we're having ultra processed foods which are already very little nutrient being present in them. On top of that, we are not having the good gut bacteria which help us with the absorption. And the third thing, this layer of plastic which is completely blocking the absorption of many of the micronutrients. See, as you mentioned, we have tests which we usually do for iron and calcium, but there are so many more things which we need for good health, including hair health and overall health, but we are not even testing them. And all these like selenium, which is so important, copper, which is also important. So very little required, but even that little we're not providing to the body, and hence so many issues. Like a major thing which everyone I think is facing, men, women, children, hair fall has become a very common issue. So by avoiding our food, especially the hot things, especially the liquids like oil, water, if they're not in contact with plastic, then we can start slowly and steadily by having good insoluble fiber in our food, that's going to clean up what was already deposited in your gut. It's going to pull out as it moves slowly through your intestines. And so over a period of 6 months to a year, we can remove what was already deposited. And if we stop filling it again, making the layer again and again, that's when we are going to be able to absorb all the nutrients which are there in our food, and we'll start seeing the results.
Okay. Oh, that's a nice thought. Like, make sure to eliminate as much as plastic from your system, so the gut will kind of slowly recover from all the toxins and everything. Okay, all right. Thank you for that. And then the other question I have is about the women's health. We all talk about perimenopausal, menopausal, and also weight gain is one of the biggest thing, and PCOS for that. So how millet as a whole can provide them in kind of like, okay, once you consume the millet, what are all the changes that you can slowly see in kind of a women's health?
I think first off, for the energy levels, I have always been speaking about this, especially in India, and I think it's similar state even abroad. We have a lot of work being done in terms of women empowerment, etc. Women are going out working, but the responsibility of taking care of everyone and taking care of home has not yet been equally taken up by men as much as women are going out. So because of this, I think it's been even more challenging of late for women to multitask and have multiple roles. So making sure they are healthy first has to become a priority, because without being healthy, it's only going to be an extra burden to take care of everyone else. So prioritizing their own health, taking care that they have some time dedicated towards becoming healthy and making sure that they stay that way has been a very significant thing, which I'm trying to communicate to people who come to us, because usually we're the last priority, ourselves giving ourselves the last priority. So in that aspect, I think millets and a good lifestyle have a very important role to play. They form the foundation of your body. So your cells are being continuously replenished. So when you give your body the right ingredients to rebuild your system, that's when you're going to be healthy. And in terms of women's health, I think in our 5 positive millets, we have little millet, which is very, very good for correcting hormone imbalances, which I think now today's statistics say more than 35% of women are having thyroid related issues. 35% of women are having PCOD or different kinds of hormone imbalance issues, and putting together the menopausal time when it's already a situation where hormones get imbalanced. So pre-existing imbalance with this is only causing more havoc. So millets and exercise. I think exercise is something which we are not giving enough value to. Regularly exercising helps to reduce obesity. Obesity and hormone imbalance are interrelated. One causes the other. So making sure that you have good exercise and a good base food is going to go a long way in being able to be the provider for everyone else as well. I think that's very important.
Okay. I think that's a great answer that you gave us. Like, as a women, we are put in the back and we are the caregiver for so many people around us. So the two things is mostly important is the millet, the lifestyle also that's very important, how we exercise. That concept is not always there, like how you walk or exercise is there. Nowadays, I think people watching this, there's a lot amount of women empowerment. They can just look at it and they can just start walking or yoga or whatever they can. They should do that.
Yes.
And then the next question I have is about the bone health. So I see a lot of patients with arthritis. Of course, obesity can also worsen their degenerative type of arthritis.
Correct.
Inflammatory food can also worsen the arthritis. And then everybody talk about is about the knee pain, and they always say, "Oh, I cannot walk because I have gained weight. I gained weight, now it hurts my knee." So how the millet can be an anti-inflammatory food in terms of helping them with arthritis, and also how the calcium can promote their bone health?
Yes. So even before we speak about calcium, another very important aspect I have to touch upon when we're speaking about bone health is vitamin D. Everybody is having a deficiency of vitamin D, and imagine countries like India where we have sun for 300 days out of the 365 days, yet people being so deficient in this easily freely available vitamin, we don't want to take it. So yes, so first thing, make it a point to go out in the sun. Just 20-30 minutes of exposure in the day is a must, whether you're exercising, whether you're walking, whether you're just sitting in the sun rays. That's a must to be healthy, not just in terms of vitamin D, it has so many other benefits as well. So that would be the first and foremost thing to do. And again, include lot of diverse substances in your food. So even when we speak about millets, we're not saying eat only one millet. There are so many good diverse food substances God has given us, and in these you'll have all the nutrients you need without even counting the micrograms or picograms of it. So when you have diversity, you really don't need to think a lot about each and every individual nutrient. And but for just to give a few examples, which are foods rich in calcium, we have sesame seeds, which used to be a very essential part of Indian cooking, but nowadays I have seen it disappear from all recipes. So start consciously including sesame seeds in your food, or if not anything, just you can make laddus, which I think everybody loves to eat sweets. So jaggery and calcium combined, the til combined, this combination, the absorption is even better. So in the presence of iron, which you do get from the jaggery, when iron and calcium are being taken in the body together simultaneously, the absorption into your system is more efficient. So this combination, which we actually have many dishes having this combination, so taking them in this combination is very good. Then there are a lot of seasonal fruits also, like custard apple, for example, which are rich in calcium. Then we have different plant-based milks like coconut milk or ragi milk, which are all good sources of calcium. So first thing, don't start thinking about supplements directly. Try to include all these foods in your day-to-day consumption, and that itself is going to give you a good boost in your calcium levels. And especially around menopause, the requirement increases and we forget to fulfill this extra requirement. So the extra benefit our hormones were giving us in terms of bone strength and joint health is lost as soon as you're approaching menopause. And unfortunately, that's happening sooner. We are not just seeing a shift of girls starting to menstruate quickly sooner by 10-12 years of age. We're also seeing women hitting menopause around their early 40s itself, which used to be late 40s to early 50s just 50 years ago. So the sooner we're hitting menopause, the more prone we become to problems of our bones, joints, and the heart especially. So we need to take extra care regarding this. And in terms of millets, we have, of course, all the 5 positive millets are excellent for weight loss. Being rich in dietary fiber, they give you a lot of satiety, even if for eating less quantity compared to rice or wheat, which you would feel hungry every 2-3 hours and want to overeat more often. So in that terms, they are going to help you with portion control, automatically regulating the portion size. And of course, the soluble fiber having the capacity to clean up the joints as well, especially in foxtail millet and brown top millet. The soluble fiber in it gets absorbed into your system, and these have the capacity to go into your joints and clean up any kind of deposits which are already formed there, which are responsible for inflammation and pain in the joints. And as you mentioned, we are already having worn out joints because of overweight and a lot of pressure being put on them. So even our healing power, see, bone is constantly being remodeled, and every day we are going to have some damage, but we need to repair it as well. So when your healing power is going to overtake the degeneration, that's when you're going to have healthy bones and joints. So we need again to provide the right nutrients to the body, so that millets also have a role in that. They boost the healing capacity of the body. So it's not like it's permanent. Something is already, there is some degenerative changes seen. With the right food and with good exercise, it's going to help to bring back circulation towards the joint. Many people are afraid to exercise or to walk because they think that it's going to worsen their problem, but actually improving the blood flow towards your joints is going to help provide nutrients where healing is required, and going to help clear the toxins, which will actually help your problem. So I'm not saying go and hit the gym or do something overboard. Slow and steady physiotherapy and exercise also has a very important role to play in terms of regeneration of the joints.
Fine, okay. Wow, that was a good amount of information, and I think you kind of cornered and nailed all the important points in there. So, weight loss is very important, and also healing and recovery of the gut is also important. I know nowadays a lot of us we look for, okay, doctor, what is it? One magic pill, or can I take this
Correct.
supplement? And also there was a recent research they found out, like they had two group of patients. One of them had osteoporosis, but they were on supplements. But then another group did not go into osteoporosis, but they were taking the diet rich in calcium. So they found out supplements does not prevent osteoporosis, so diet induced. And you are very right. So before sesame seeds, I used to eat it before when I was a young child growing up in India.
Correct.
And I think there was a more focus on, oh, the coconut milk and then the sesame seeds going to raise your cholesterol. So everybody kind of like were
Correct. Correct.
and then now after Dr. Kadalwali sir's video, I have sugar addiction, which so and then he said how to overcome is like making those sesame laddus. So it's kind of a protein, and also it cuts down
Correct.
sugar craving just because it has got a
Yes.
fiber component.
Yes.
In that. And also the other important point, I know you said so much of important point. I want to summarize that. So you also said the slow release, the sustained release from the millets. So that's why you don't get that hungriness. Like it kind of sustains the
Correct.
rest of the glucose.
Yes.
You don't have the up
Yes.
and low sugar. So lowers the
Correct.
insulin resistance as well, so that you stay less hungry. Your satiety is there. It helps you with the weight loss, diabetes. There's so many things we can talk about, but I think you covered the major points here. And I have some I know there's so much of knowledge you have, and I wanted to have you some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So from your father, Dr. Kadrawalli says there's one thing that you always admire the most. Is it his diet or lifestyle? So what kind of like the one thing that you would admire most?
I think it's his energy and the dedication he has, even at this age. It's early morning, 5 o'clock, or night, 11 o'clock. If it's for the purpose of educating or spreading the awareness, he's there and he's not even complaining, traveling hundreds of kilometers. He's ready to do that. So, that much energy and motivation I don't find in myself. So, that's something I would like to steal from him.
Okay. And then, so what huge impact, like you may have seen so many patients or families, you have cured so many people. So what is the biggest impact on a recent patient that you had, like giving them the prescription of the healthy diet and lifestyle? What story can you share us?
Okay, so recently I had a patient who had rheumatic heart disease. So she had been advised to go in with termination of pregnancy because it was going to be a risk for her to continue the pregnancy. But they were a newly married couple and they didn't have children yet. So we helped her with this positive lifestyle. And of course, medications also played a role in this case. But combined together, they recently had a healthy baby. Mother is fine. So I think that was a very touching moment when a couple could continue to have a baby and did not have to terminate that pregnancy, which had happened naturally. So I think fulfilling that family's requirement for a baby, I think that was a very touching moment. And recently that happened, and all due to millets and kashayams, it was possible. So that was a very good experience I had in the recent past.
That's amazing, healthy mom and healthy baby, and giving them the power of giving birth to a child and having a family. I think that's amazing. Yes. And then the other question I have is you have talked about how do we store water in copper vessels, the pH of the water. And so, why is it important to store our drinking water in copper vessels?
So, copper, with its specific electronic configuration, there's an electron which is continuously vibrating, which successfully kills bacteria and viruses. So, all the pathogenic bacteria and viruses which we can get from water, they're going to be eliminated. Copper structures the water, which energizes us by drinking it, and the nanoparticles of plastic, which we just mentioned. They form a film on top of the copper plate, which we can get rid of by washing it regularly. So instead of inside our gut, now the plastic particles in the water are on the copper plate. So these three would be the benefits.
Benefits, okay. And then the vessels you have mentioned in one of your channel, in one of the videos in the channel about like how we should avoid the Teflon coating and aluminum. So what would you usually prefer in terms of using the vessels?
So earthen pots would be the best, no doubt. They are going to enhance the taste of the food as well. The reason being the micro pores allow for good aeration while cooking. So there's no buildup of pressure. Pressure is constantly being released. So in this way, earthen pots would be the top, and the next option would be stainless steel. It's the most inert. It doesn't really react with your food, so though it's not adding any additional health benefits of its own, there is no damage due to the cooking vessel. So first would be earthen pots, second stainless steel.
Okay, thank you for that. The last question I have is about how do we wash? Like, there's so much of insecticides, pesticides. It's like, even though like we try to get organic as much as possible, how do you wash them to get rid of the insecticides and pesticides or harmful toxins?
I can't say we can. I can't say we can really get rid of it completely, but to some extent, we can reduce the toxins in our vegetables by soaking them in tamarind water. So tamarind has tartaric acid, which is very potent in pulling out the chemical, not just on the surface, even from inside of your vegetables and greens. So by soaking them for 10 minutes in tamarind water and then washing it with running water, we can reduce the toxins which we are putting into our body through the vegetables and grains.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and explaining everything, the science behind it, and also you touched about the women empowerment, which we all love to hear from women, especially how to take care of ourselves. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you one day in person in here.
Sure, I would love to meet you too. And let's plan something soon. My pleasure. I really enjoyed myself.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.